Hello, everybody. My name is Frontline K19, and welcome back to today we're going to be doing some rolling line, but in addition to some other things as well. Hello, Crimson. Welcome in. I see you're on a 3-stream watch streak. That's pretty cool. So yeah, I'm streaming on a Tuesday, which is rather strange for me. Nowadays with my big fancy job, but I was given some advice. Hey, you should just relax. And I'm like, okay, maybe I can stream. And, try and improve over the last 2 streams as well. But I really don't... I mean, I have a plan for today, but it's not really, like, anything special. My plan mostly is just to stream for, like, the next hour or so until I need to start going to bed. But we are going to work on something in a rolling line, streaming and memeing. Hello, Gam. Welcome in. Gam, I've been seeing the exchange back and forth in less in the chat, and yeah, Loudoun County Transit incompetence. Who would have known? James, it's been a hot minute since I caught a stream. Yes, James, because mostly because I haven't been streaming. Welcome in, welcome in. I hope both of you noticed that I have some new overlays. These are fantastic. These are made by Ars and Pie. I shout out to him. And there's more where that came from. So yeah. So I have an idea, chat. Let me just go ahead and get up something that I made. Let me actually get up a few things. So let's switch to streaming. I have rolling lineup, but it's probably more appropriate if I put paint.net up. Hold up. Hello, can you see paint.net? Hello? Okay, paint.net is yes, sound effects already. Paint.net is being incredibly goofy. I still have Luna stream up, do I? No, but okay, so apparently paint.net is being goofy. Let me I can't do all of this in rolling line. The rod is LCT in a nutshell. You know what? That is so true. It's all an affair of my life with the heroes and villains on LCT. Okay, let me just go ahead and just fall back on the classic. Let me just share my whole screen. Leo and Bear are here with me today, so that's nice. They're in my bed. Normally I don't allow my dogs in my bed, but considering they'd be walking in and out, you know, 8 bajillion times, there we go. I decided to let them in here. So, as you may be aware, I have a fictional railroad called the Washington, Ohio, and I made a logo for it. This is supposed to be the logo between 1969 and, or between 1940 and 1969, until it's replaced with lead chipper. And I had an idea for a commission, which was the, let me just get it up. The cover of Johnny Cash's hit album, Orange Blossom Special. Which, let me just... There's no, like, good image of this. That's the problem. Or do you want, like, a 5 megapixel, not megapixel, 5 pixel image of this? There you go. And I'm like, why won't I be able to get a... Why can't I get a commission where I'm like this? Instead of Seaboard, it's Washington, Ohio. I'm like, okay, I need to make a logo for like a 40-foot boxcar or something, and this is what it is. You know, I can make that, and then I can do like a little like reference image and rolling line, and then I can send it off to my dear friend TG, who made the creator of Scent, Pursuit of the Golden Hill. Hi Jay, I mentioned Scent and you appear. Bear is actually in the room with me right now. So is Leo. So you haven't stolen them yet. But my idea is, oh yeah, I could get TG to draw this and with an art commission. So that's what we're gonna do. Let me just go ahead. Also, I'm here to inform you. You'll be renamed to the Channel of Training Space Stuff. This is non-negotiable, and any attempt to resist will be met with silence, like the Baltimore and Ohio Air Museum. I'm sure we'll get into that later. I've been painting. Okay. Pull up. I have so many gosh dang tabs open. Why is rolling line on my other monitor? Okay, so let me just like load up a map real quick. BP green. Okay. Oh hey, the boy's back. Hello, Proville. I was wondering if you would show up today. I think I said in general, my server, I said, yeah, I might stream later, just so, you know, you wouldn't miss. I was there when you made that. The bear bark? No, you weren't. What are you yapping about? Yeah, today is gonna be fairly simple. I just want to make a like a box car with W and O on it or something, and that should be fairly simple. Now, a devious idea that I did have, which is let's is it do I have to look up Baltimore specifically? Someone made shark noses? Guess someone did make shark nose. Oh, that's a very crusty shark nose, but it is it does exist. The short line streaming rared or trains of rared in games and innovation. Sure, sure. This is totally not a desperate ploy to get more funding from Class 1 railroads. The worst part about it is the Baltimore, Ohio Railroad Museum is actually doing really good. It's just the name that they screwed up. Wait, someone also made a Seattle and North... Okay, I'm getting utterly distracted. I'm like, ooh, shiny object. But let's just look up, like, I don't know, is there, like, can I get like, a boxcar? Or, like, a default... Yeah, like, default boxcar right here. This doesn't need to be super detailed. All it needs to be is just, get the idea across so I can send an image, for this. Hey, hello, hello, Fig Pudding. How is the Isle, the, Perfidious Albion treating you? Hey, I guess someone did make a Seattle and North Coast thing. I almost made, Seattle and North Coast had an SW1, and I actually bought an undecorated SW1 in HO scale to actually make it at some point, but I just never bothered because I went off to college. Did you play Transport Tycoon? No, but I have the soundtrack on. As I said, you always ask me, oh, do I play this game? Do I play this game? The answer is pretty much, I've probably played it at some point in the past, but I just don't have the time or interest in playing them now because I have other things I want to work on. We make this like, these are like modernized 40-foots, right? Oh no, those are just normal 40-foots. What other boxcars do I have? CB&Q, I have a bunch of narrow gauge stuff. I swear there was a wagon top boxcar at some point, but I guess not. Okay. Train mods, train liveries. What I always thought it'd be cool if I made like a red, made the W&O stuff red. Let's this freight car color selection is very important. Audacia Sandero. Ooh, my ADHD allows me to have a large and varied palette of games at my disposal. I sort of forget that's not how everyone works. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Okay, chat. We need to figure something out. Let me just get like, let's just pull out a Jeep 30 or something. All right. Here's a Washington, Ohio Jeep 30 for you, right? You know, that's the locomotive. And I was sort of thinking, right? Because here's the thing, right? Because you know how, like, Penn Central, they had their locomotives black, but all the paint cars were painted in the seafoam green. I really like that idea of having, like, a separate dedicated scheme for freight. Does the red there look acceptable? Something like that? Or maybe a darker red, like I don't know, what other more brown. Like what's the CB and Q red sort of look like? Yeah, something like that shade of red, maybe a bit more pale. Or will I just go with sort of like the sort of brownish red, right? Like something kind of like that, kind of. Oh well, I guess it really doesn't matter. We can start. I'm overthinking this, as I typically do. Let's just go ahead and duplicate. So we're gonna do W&O 40-foot car. We're gonna save. We're gonna spawn. And as I said, I just need to get this down to, you know, so I can do like a, I can basically do like a close up, right? You know, close up like this, right? And then provide basically a better sort of reference to the actual like Orange Blossom special cover. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead. Texture, open. Rolling line. Okay, excellent, excellent. And now we have this. So I'm going to look up railroad color X codes, right? That's what we're going to look up. And like what that is A7. It won't let me copy it, so I have to type it down. Okay. So just to sort of begin, be like, aha, you are red now. Bro has become red. He has become J-colored. Gonna make a go boxcar mood. Gonna go make some fictional boxcars now. Heck yeah, heck yeah. So how has everyone been? I hope everyone has been doing good. It's a big week for me as I have, well, the next 2 weeks are kind of big because I have my tomorrow I have a practice session for my big like project report out that I need to do with my fellow interns, and then next week I have the actual report out in front of the vice president of supply chain, which is not going to be nerve-wracking at all. I also don't think my presentations are good, but, to sell myself short, I've been told, so, been better, but things are getting better slowly. That's fine, that's fine. Things getting better slowly is better than things getting worse. Part of a fad in the industry and deregulation allowed for the fad of taking hold in the first place. I feel like it was more Hunter Harrison specifically, and then Hunter Harrison did well enough that everyone just kind of wanted to be him, but they weren't him, so it just kind of didn't work. Also, like, it's an operating philosophy. I don't think is what... I don't know, it's so funny, because PSR is one of those things that I think means something at some point, but rapidly became, it meant whatever the hell the speaker wanted it to mean. But it's an operating philosophy, and operating philosophies were not something that I think was strictly governed by regulation other than, like, safety, right? But, like, the idea of, oh yeah, you run things on schedules, or you run long trains, or pre-block your cars, right? There weren't any. I don't know if there were any sort of restrictions on that, but admittedly, that is something I will have to look more at. Oh well, I'm not going to get into that for today, because I want to relax and focus on this instead of getting into another intellectual conversation where I will proceed to doubt my abilities and then curse myself out, so... Always thought it meant two people running a train roughly as long as Rhode Island. I mean, long trains are a part of it. That's not the whole philosophy. Like one thing is, like, block swapping, right? You have cars that you... blocks of cars that you basically swap out en route instead of in yards and whatnot. That's why they close all the... Like, a big part of it is... like, a big part of PSR is... You want to minimize the time spent in yards and the amount of switching you have spent in yards, because, frankly, a car sitting in a yard is a car not moving along the route, which is why PSR, railroads, they, for example, don't like hump yards, because, for as fast as hump yards are, cars are still sitting in them for as long as you can, which leads to things like block swapping, right? Instead of doing your classification out in a yard, you kind of do it in smaller yards, kind of out on the, or, in sidings out on the road and stuff like that. To a point, right? Obviously there's a point where you kind of need a yard. Overhead consequences be damned. That's what it became. I don't know if that was what it was. That's not what it was originally. Well, kind of what it was originally, but still. As I said, like, EHH, he had this philosophy for running trains, right, that was super efficient for the railroad. It kind of pissed off customers because it kind of strong-armed the customers into doing the things the railroad's way rather than the other way around. And it was definitely a case of the man definitely produced, the operating philosophy definitely produced financial results, and then all the other railroaders saw it and be like, I want to try that, and just fucking didn't have the ability to pull it off correctly. And they're like, oh yeah, we can just use this as kind of a, as a way to... It just didn't work. At least that's how I understood it. Where, yeah, it was... I don't know. There are definitely detriments to it, right? Long trains do tend to be a bit more dangerous. As I said, on a lot of railroads, this whole sort of operating philosophy was super efficient for the railroad, but the customers kind of hated it because, well, ideally, when you're a customer, you want the business to work for you, not for you to work for the business. So, but yet again, that's something that I know a little bit about, but it's not something that I have read. I actually did read a book on Hunter Harrison like 4 years ago, and I just completely forgot everything in it, but that's besides the point. Anyways, railroad stuff aside, I think I put that on the wrong layer. Yes, I did. Okay, I put things on the wrong way. Enough talking about that for now. What else is happening? Starship Flight 13 is tomorrow, which will be interesting. It's like right as around the time I get home, because I typically get home at like 5:45, and that's the scheduled launch date, assuming no slips. Which can never be guaranteed, right? There still might. I know on Flight 12 they kept slipping, and you know that allowed me to watch it as soon as I got home. So that's going to be interesting to see. What else? What else? I mean, what else has occurred? Nothing much. It's only been like 3 days. Oh yeah, the Baltimore Ohio Railroad Museum renamed themselves to something incredibly stupid. Totally not renaming themselves to something incredibly stupid as a bid to get like Class 1 funding or whatever. Couldn't be that. What else? What else? Oh yeah, I'm getting some new art. If you will notice my well, first of all, I'm getting a new schedule, right? So that'll be nice. What else? I'm getting a new schedule card. I am getting a piece of artwork for my one of my friends, Crozanium, got some art that I really liked of one of his characters. He was like, "Oh yeah, that artist is super cool. Like, who are they?" So I got art from that. Hold on. Before I am getting art from that artist. Let me go ahead and just so I don't like reveal file or whatever. Just save that real quick. We're gonna give me a moment while I can just switch to this while I do this. I need to import this into the game. Why is there so many spaces between WO 40-foot box? Okay. PNG, we're gonna save the PNG. File logo. Yeah, that's cool. Pull up. Assets folder. Oh, by the way, that a PNG. Wait, hold up. My friend Pat, he is actually making a a model of, hold on, let me get it out. It's actually in rolling line, but he's making a real life model of it. Yeah, I don't need to know how to make liveries. I know how to do that myself. Well, first of all, let's refresh and then find our 40-foot box car. There we go. Fresh. Okay, I actually think that looks pretty good. Like those two colors together, I think that actually looks nice. I feel like a little poly model is sort of charm to it. Thank you. I actually quite like it too. At first I wanted like a super detailed model, but then I realized A, that's expensive. B, I kind of like the lower poly one. I think it looks kind of nice. Okay, so just for reference, my friend Pat, I have this, which is a Washington, Ohio EL1A. These historically were owned by the Virginian, and they were, I think, Alco Westinghouse electrics from like 1925. Anyways, Pat decided he wanted to do basically the same thing in my passenger scheme, right? Like, this is the Washington, Ohio passenger scheme. So he's actually building one of these from scratch, from the ground up, in HO scale. Is pretty cool. Do you think yourself as a VTuber? I mean, yeah, I do. I'm not like... I don't put on like a persona or anything, but I have the model. I watch other YouTubers. I do consider myself one. So, what time is it? Okay, back to this. Oh, that's OBS. And see how the sausage is made. Okay. Okay. So what we want to do is add in a new layer. And then start in there. And just checking, yeah, maybe a bit of a darker color, darker red. Okay, there we go. Okay. Interestingly enough, okay, Brill. What I have done with the Washington, Ohio is, what I have done with the WNO is, because I love playing around with alternate mergers, railroad mergers, because it's always fun to take all the various components and lines on the map and sort of rearrange them in different ways to find something that's either interesting or weird or cool or ideal. So with the Washington, Ohio, starting in the 60s, I've sort of altered the merger landscape to my liking, is what I could say. So starting in like the 1950s, right? The only main difference is the Washington, Ohio as a railroad exists, right? Now with the WNO, I did take some lines that were originally a part of other railroads or became a part of other railroads later on, combine them with some of my own lines to form the Washington, Ohio, but everything in like 1950 is basically the same. And then from there on, I started tweaking. I'm like, okay, well, I know I want the Washington, Ohio to be a big player, right? So I'm like, okay, I know the dynamics of how these things go, and like of just railroading at the time and who had what motivations and who historically, wanted what and whatnot. So in the 1960s in the Northeast, because let's just focus on that for now, Washington, Ohio begins to expand, and they mainly do that by taking things that historically the Norfolk and Western got. So the Nickel Plate, Wheeling, Lake Erie, Pittsburgh, West Virginia. The Norfolk and Western, they still get the Pennsylvania Railroad Sandusky line and the Wabash and whatnot, but they don't get as much. And then I sort of, just knowing history and all, Penn Central, for as much as people like to drag on Penn Central was pretty pretty necessary in many ways, like having a failure that big to, waking the government up to the realize that they were kind of killing the railroad industry uh, with many of the things that they were doing. And of course, that led to Conrail, right? So I sort of figured, okay, I still kind of want to have Penn Central and Conrail in there, just because of the influence that they had and all that. Plus, I like Penn Central, I like Conrail, I like those railroads. And so just sort of looking at the eastern map, right? You have I guess you'd have the Washington, Ohio, right? Say from like 1968, right? You have the Washington, Ohio. They have the nickel plate and a couple of other smaller railroads. They're sort of angling for the Erie, Lackawanna, and Delaware and Hudson. You have Chesapeake and Ohio, which had historically bought the Baltimore, Ohio in 1963, and still does in this timeline. And then you have the Norfolk and Western with the Wabash and a few other smaller lines here and there. Now, historically speaking, and this is something that I don't think is actually known by many people, but I've always kind of found it as a sort of fascinating what if. Let's see. Which is, as a response to the Penn Central merger, right? Because, in retrospect, it's easy to say, oh yeah, Penn Central was destined to be a failure, right? But that's not how people sort of viewed it at the time. The New York Central and the Pennsylvania, while they were faltering a bit financially, they were still the two largest railroads in the Northeast. And in fact, many were sort of terrified as to what the idea was. Okay, Penn Central would merge, and they would be able to fix that merger, would be able to fix the troubles of the two railroads and cause them to, become a strong system again. And there were many fears that that system would go on to sort of dominate the entire East. So, as a response, in 1965, the Chesapeake and Ohio, which, reminder, owned the Baltimore and Ohio, and the Norfolk and Western, which owned the Wabash, the Nickel Plate, a couple of other smaller railroads. The C&O and the N&W actually announced a merger of their own. And we talk about, oh yeah, Penn Central was going to be a big railroad, right? This C&O N&W merger, right? They would have all the N&W lines in the Midwest, Baltimore, Ohio, the Western Maryland. Hope Leo's getting up. And then they proposed, because there were a couple of railroads in the Northeast that were also sort of faltering financially, right? The Erie, Lackawanna, Delaware, and Hudson, Reading, Central Railroad in New Jersey, Boston and Maine, I think were the few. The C&O N&W merger said, okay, you know what we can do to solve this issue? These railroads are faltering financially. What we can do is we can take those railroads on as subsidiaries as a condition of our merger. And it was massive. I have a map, not exactly dwarfing Penn Central, but definitely dominating over it. And this was in large part justified by saying, hey, Penn Central is going to be this massive combination. The only way for us to sort of keep our current position is if we merge. Well, Leo wants to go out. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So where was I? So yeah, the C&O and the N&W sort of justified this by saying, hey, look, Penn Central was going to be so big and dominant, the only way for us to sort of, not be hurt by this in any major way is if we merge. Which, as I said, sounds ridiculous today, but, how people viewed Penn Central back then was a lot different than how we view it now. And the other reason was, you have all these small northeastern railroads, which are, hundreds of millions of dollars in debt headed for bankruptcy, right? You know, the only way for them to really last is if they become a part of our large system. It was almost pitched as like I don't want to say like corporate welfare, but like the large toll road basically subsidizing the smaller roads, smaller, almost nearly bankrupt northeastern roads, so like the government didn't have to deal with them or something. And this merger was actually pretty close to approval, right? If Penn Central had gone bankrupt later, or maybe even not at all, though I don't believe that's a big long shot, this would have happened. So I took that actual history and said, okay, so the Washington, Ohio exists, right? Penn Central and is a big railroad. Penn Central exists and is a big railroad. The C&O still has the B&O. The Norfolk and Western still expands, albeit they're still kind of small. So if the C&O and the N&W historically were intimidated by Penn Central, right, then having the Washington, Ohio be there as well would only mean that the C&O and the N&W would have more motivation to merge. So that's what happens. And the Washington, Ohio gets a bunch of conditions out of that as well. So they expand their system as well because of that. And so the Norfolk and Western doesn't exist in the Norfolk and Western, which has the Wabash, doesn't exist past 1969. That's all just a big chassis system. So you basically have 3 railroads in the Northeast, which is the Washington, Ohio, Penn Central, later Conrail, and then chassis system. So, but that's just sort of the Northeast. I have also I've also sort of dabbled in like other areas of the map, so to speak, trying to change some things to my liking. Because my idea is I wanted 3 railroads in every region, right? I wanted 3 big railroads in the Northeast, 3 big railroads in the South, 3 big railroads in sort of the Northwest, and then in the Southwest as well. So what I could eventually do is I could pair an Eastern Railroad up with a Western Railroad, right, to form a couple of transcons, and then for the 6 remaining transcons, you could pair them up with one another. So you have, 3 times... So you have 12 big railroads, which become 6, which eventually become 3, plus like 8,000 regional. Just sort of playing the scenario out and figuring out, okay, like realistically speaking, how would this kind of stuff go down? I have a document I can send you if you want to see like what all the mergers are and whatnot, and I can sort of talk through them. Right, this took me months to figure out. Although that has been aided by the fact that I've been reading about this stuff for nearly a decade now, and I just have all of these system maps just infused in my brain. So I don't really need to do much on that aspect. But it's fun, yeah. I've made a map of the Washington, Ohio, and Washington, Ohio merges with you get basically a Milwaukee road that doesn't suck. Well, it's a Milwaukee Chicago Northwestern merge, which almost happened a couple of times actually. Although this one's based off of the in the late '60s. Albeit some of the smaller railroads that the Chicago Northwestern absorbed historically aren't absorbed by the C&W, so it's not as big as it otherwise would have been. And having the Milwaukee have the C&W means they get to the Powder River Basin, and they build out in the Powder River Basin, and they get the coal traffic from that, which allows them to last. And then they merge with the Washington, Ohio during all of these 1980s transcontinental mergers and become the Washington Pacific. And then in the 90s, the Washington Pacific alters a bunch and then gets bought out by Southern Pacific, forming WSP. Southern Pacific, who has the Rock Island and the family lines. And then, in order to get that merger through, they have to sell off a bunch of lines to basically Guilford. But So that's me sort of talking about my alternate history. I've started making some of these maps. Like I said, I made the Washington, Ohio map, I made the Milwaukee map, I combined them to make the Washington Pacific. I'm starting on what Union Pacific is in the early 80s, which Union Pacific is, well, just pre-1980s Union Pacific combined with the Central Pacific out to the Bay Area, basically the Illinois Central Gulf, because historically Union Pacific was the largest stockholder in the Illinois Central. And then in the 1980s, they end up getting basically a Seaboard Airline Central and Georgia combination to get to the Atlantic, which is such a weird system. But I sort of like the idea of Union Pacific not being as dominant as they are historically. I sort of like to explore that idea. Now that I've probably chased off my entire audience, I'm going to continue to yap. All right, here we go. I don't know. I just found that sort of interesting, so I'm working on that map. My eventual goal is I do eventually want to have maps for all of the major systems that I've sort of put together. So, but that's like really long term. So, and my eventual idea is, I have all of these system maps, and then I make all of these things in rolling line, and just sort of screw around with them more, yeah. So, yeah, I think that's good. Washington, Ohio. Found out $1 million been approved for the WOD Visitor Center in Vienna. Oh, is that the one? Hold up, I'm curious. Because from what I remember, that was going to be built on. That was going to be built on. There's like between the Model Railroad Club and like the main street in Vienna, like Church Street, there's an old abandoned business park. Leo wants to come back in, and I was curious. Okay, is that where they're going to build it? Because that's where I think they were going to build. Hello, I am back. Leo is back too. Oh yeah, I don't think I was sharing my screen. Oh well. Yeah, something like that, right? The big W&O logo. There was also a thing where, yeah, I was sort of curious about that, because with the Northern Virginia Model Railroaders, the building, the actual depot itself, is owned by the city of Vienna. And there was a recent thing in the change in the contract basically stating that, like, hey, the city of Vienna can now basically, for any reason, kick out the club. They have to give us like 6 months notice or whatever. And not that I think Northern Virginia Model Railroad is going to be kicked out, other than that one thing. There's never really been any inclination that might happen. At least I hope not. But some people, I was sort of speculating, yeah, like, what about that visitors center? Were they gonna maybe try and kick out the club and turn the building into the visitor center? But now that there's sort of actual money being put forth, like a substantial amount of money, I don't know if that's gonna be the case. So the club is almost certainly going. Knock on wood. Or, you know, maybe kicking the club out and turning the depot into the visitor center, just the backup, just in case, you know, the actual main visitor center plans don't actually work out. Which is a shame because you know, I don't think the club is going to go anywhere. The club is a pretty integral part of the community with like open houses and all of that. Although as a former member myself, I am slightly biased in that regard. Okay, how does that look? I think we need to bring the Washington, Ohio down. Or maybe, like, put it over here. Good news, it's a former bank they're aiming to build at. Oh, yeah, okay, then yeah, I know exactly what building they're actually planning to do it on. Union Pacific and Central Pacific are the only Iowa railroads that exist, and you get speed to death behind a bar in Salt Lake City. Central Pacific later goes on to rebrand as the Central Southwestern. Nice, nice. You know, that's something you don't really see. You don't really see, like obviously, oh yeah, Milwaukee Road alternate histories are like a dime a dozen, including my own. Although I tried to make mine a bit different than the ones that I've seen about. But, like, you never really see people do, like, oh yeah, the Central Pacific, right? You know, like, you know, try and making that an independent thing. You don't really see many people do stuff like that, which is kind of a shame in my opinion. There's so much untapped potential with this kind of stuff that I just don't see people do all that often. Or do in a way that, to be honest, sometimes they don't do it they do it, but they don't do it in a way that I find particularly, like, realistic or interesting, although I guess that's probably just the natural consequence of just I've read too much, dang it. But hey, you know, that means, right, like I have friends who've come to me. I know I'm just straight up bragging at this point, but screw it, it's my stream, allow me to brag. Honestly, like, if anyone here needs any help with their, like, railroad alternate history, right, just hit me up. Like, I can help you. I can help you make this good. Right? So just, that is my offer to you. That is my offer to you. UP would continue to exist until paper until the 1950s. Even some of the Central Wasatch class are sublettered UP. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things I've done with this alternate history, like one thing that I always thought was sort of well, I have the transcontinentals because I've always thought that in the early 80s, the late 70s, early 80s, there was with some of the discussions happening, there was a chance that we could have gotten them and we didn't, and I've always been kind of I feel like that's always sort of been a lost something that probably should have happened, but it just never did because, I don't know, just not how things went down. So I've obviously incorporated that into the alternate history. There's some other things too, like one of those is Santa Fe and Conrail doing a merger. So I don't know. What number should I just randomly put on this? Let's see, is there anyone in chat with numbers in their name? 6, 3, 18, 19. Alright, there we go. Or 6, 3, 8. No. There's I guess another example is like Santa Fe and Conrail. That, you know, add in the Frisco and like the Toledo, Peoria, and Western, perfect intermodal railroad. Like not like just that's a perfect intermodal railroad. You know, so that's something. It becomes the Atlantic and Pacific, you know, harkening back to the name of a Santa Fe predecessor, and also Frisco predecessor. So just kind of cool stuff like that. And I don't know, I've always loved whenever like Kansas City Southern is such an interesting railroad to me because by all logic it should not have lasted as long as it. But in the 90s you had, okay, let's try and survive as an independent railroad by going to Mexico. And it's just, history is weird and there's always going to be those things that just pop up seemingly out of nowhere. Those things that don't necessarily seem logical. Like KCS not dying. So I've included like plenty of those small little things. Like the Boston and Maine. In my universe with the WNO, the Guilford never exists. It's basically just a big Boston and Maine. And through all the big mergers that go down, they buy enough random lines and get enough random concessions that they're a big player. So stuff like that. Oh, I wonder who. Well, I went with Crimson, and then I said, okay, we're just gonna add the 1 for you, Throwville. So you're the 1 right there. But don't worry, next freight car I make, you will be Bear is snoring very loudly. That's what Bear does. Is he's that dog. Bear is an incredibly comedic animal. My favorite thing about Bear is, like, you would never expect to combine those aspects into a dog, but yet he exists. Okay. And yet he exists. Okay. There we go. I'm just putting those on there just for the sake of it. But yeah, can you tell I like screwing around with this stuff? That's part of the reason why I'm rereading merging lines, because I just wanted to know, like, because I said I knew a lot of this already just doing all this research, but I want to know more. I don't know. My eventual idea is I'm gonna write an entire book on this one, big alternate history thing I've made. So that's my eventual goal. So might as well start the research for it. Well, might as well start, reading in more things now. Plus, like, I feel like I haven't really read all that much recently. That's something that I've been wanting more. I just realized that I've been stuck on Rolling Line when I've actually been doing things in Paint.net. Take a look. Sorry about that, friends. I'm switching in between things. But look, I added the numbers. So, Washington, Ohio. Here we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and save that on the desktop. Save that as PNG. You have to save it as a PNG, and then what you do, check. Go into, right? We just. Oh yeah. By the way, if anyone wants a tutorial on how to reskin and roll, that's another thing. It's fairly intuitive. It's not that hard, actually. Once you get the hang of it, right? At the beginning, it is kind of, okay, yeah, we're everything is looking good. Maybe dampening that red color a little bit. I feel like would be better. I'm gonna head out. Take care. Thank you, James, for joining. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, so I think that red looks really stupid. So what I'm going to do now is we're just going to go back in here. We're just going to... Oh, wait, did I combine? Oh, yeah, I did. Okay, that was stupid of me. Luckily, there's the undo button. Turns out... Oh, gosh, I could have undooed these before. I didn't. Oh, boy. Oh, that text is also in the wrong... Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna get this done, and then I'm going to end the stream. Because I actually want to go to... Number 4. Do 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 do. 1, 2, 5. One, 2, 4. Okay, there we are. You know... What we're gonna do... We're gonna click right there. Going to... Not as much. Like, just the sort of basic. Okay, that should be good. By the way, Gam, I know Northern... Speaking of more mergers, I know there's been proposals to consolidate some of the bus agencies in Northern Virginia. You know what? I'm not too sure if I like that idea. I don't know. Because, like, the whole point behind having local bus systems is that they're more responsive and serve more local routes as compared to WMATA. You know, like, with Fairfax Connector, Fairfax County can control the bus services that they have and where they run and whatnot, and they're not beholden to anybody else. I feel like just sort of consolidating all the bus agencies into one big thing, yeah, it reduces the amount of overhead you have, right? But, like, I feel like that sort of dampens it. Like, I don't know, maybe it'll be like Hampton Roads Transit, where, you know, it's one big agency, but, like, all the individual counties have a fair amount of leeway. I don't know. Okay. 31. Let's go ahead and save that. And then save that. Right? And bring rolling line over. 40-foot boxcar. Oh, nope, not the... Bring over rolling line. Doot. Fresh assets folder. Okay, yeah, that looks much better. Alright, chat, we have our Washington, Ohio boxcar that we're slowly working on. That's pretty much all I wanted to get done for tonight. I just needed, like, a little base to just show TV what she needed to... Actually, hold up. Let's go ahead Go ahead and just scroll up real quick. I need to find something quick. You could also get a Suffolk County. Hold up. Where the new consolidated agency isn't able to help an area like Centerville, for example. Yeah. I feel like this could go either really well, like a la Hampton Roads Transit, or really poorly, where the wider agency just becomes a bit unresponsive to local needs. I think it would sort of depend on like what transit agency, like what place. Like Loudoun County, like, yeah, 1,000%. Switch back to rolling. Like Loudoun County, 1,000%. LCT needs like a massive overhaul anyways. And if that could be done by sort of better integrating it with some of the other bus agencies, like that's fine. But would this entire thing just sort of become Arlington, Alexandria dominated, with like Fairfax County sort of dominate, right? I feel like especially this is less the case on sort of the when you have the state level jurisdictions, surprisingly enough, but I feel like on the local level there's a lot of, well, local politics involved. And we all know that local politics can get really interesting for not good reasons. Cough, cough, Maryland, MTA. Yeah, exactly. Hold up. Ah! Because I feel like they're inside of you. There are two wolves. One is Hampton Roads Transit. The other is Dart. I feel like it could go either way, really. Right. You know what? Close enough. Actually, hold up. Or like up from, right? Or maybe I can just take a picture of it like this, and that'll be enough. Take HD screenshot. All right, we have a piece of rolling stock, which is nice. I haven't really made any W&O rolling stock besides a hopper I threw together in like 5 minutes. I feel like fucking Top Hat from Trouble with Trains, where I just make locomotives and I don't make any rolling stock. But anyways, I think we're gonna be done for today. Let me actually hold before I actually go. Let me just make sure that I have saved this. Right. I guess I'll continue working on this at some other time. Anyways, well, thank you all for watching. I streamed for about an hour, which was pretty nice. You know, not too long, not too what? But yeah, thank you all for watching. Thank you, Gam. Thank you, James. Thank you, Throva109, my loyal viewer. Thank you, Fig. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Crimson. I don't know when I'm gonna stream next. Probably not this weekend, because I actually have I have one of my friends coming this week, so that'll be nice. I really don't have anyone to raid unless you like Power World. I have someone who I can raid. Do not worry. But thank you all for watching, and yeah. We are now Jover with the stream. So I'll let me go ahead and just get up someone to actually I have a few people I could take care. Thank you. Let's go ahead and raid. Let's go ahead and raid one of a person I actually know in real life. Go ahead and sure. So I'm gonna send you over to Shinji AVI, aka fellow member of the college anime club. He is our social media manager. So go support him. He is cool guy. And yeah, thank you all for watching. And he's playing Persona 5, which is another game I really don't care for, but it's a friend. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye, everybody.